everybody, Earl at thelogbook.com, back for more Voyages of Shelf Discovery. I'm sure everyone who is a Star Trek collector of any kind is aware that Factory Entertainment has graced us with a new screen-accurate Star Trek The Next Generation tricorder, which costs hundreds of dollars. It looks great. I can't skip the rent for a month for a tricorder. Sorry. So I kind of wanted to step back in time here and sing the praises of the good old $20 Playmates next-gen tricorders from the 90s. They did two different models. They did the standard tricorder released in 1993 while the Next Generation was still on the air and was actually something people wanted merch from. And they also did a medical tricorder variation, often seen in the possession of Dr. Crusher, or since this came out in 1997, it was just as likely to be seen in the hands of Dr. Bashir or the holographic Doctor on Voyager. Both of them pretty sturdy and nothing to sneeze at as far as accuracy. In fact, it wasn't until you got into the mid to late 90s that the props on screen actually looked better than the toys. Some of the early instances of these showing up on TV, close-ups of the props, did them no favors. I don't think the original props were intended for close-ups. They had blinky lights and so on, but that was intended to be seen from a little bit of a distance. Both of these do fold up. They have little hooks on the back, so if you've got a belt loop or a pocket or an actual belt, these can be worn. You can see in each case where the speakers are on the back of each model. There are details. They don't light up. There are details on the end. On the medical tricorder, you have the little hand scanner, which, okay, you should probably put your hand over it when you're pulling the little lever to eject that. The hand scanner has no lights, no working features, doesn't require batteries. It's just a solid chunk of plastic that fits very snugly into the top of the tricorder, as per the original prop. Just make sure you put your hand over it when you're activating the ejection device. Otherwise, it goes airborne like it did in that video just now. Both of these, they do take batteries. They do light up. They do make sounds. 3 different sounds. The 3 green buttons below the screen activate the sounds. Now, I will warn you that the sounds on my original tricorder don't sound particularly great, because this was probably an analog tape loop mechanism, and these things, this one is over 30 years old. You could probably tell how closely tied the internal electrical wiring is, that the screen flickers depending on the noise. Your speakers are there in the battery door. These are very nicely, solidly constructed. I'm gonna say the size of them is probably spot on to the original props. The other thing I like about these tricorders that Playmates graced us with is that they are based on the original Rick Sternbach formulation of the prop. The uprated tricorders that started appearing. Oh, let's hear the sounds. Bit less woeful. Okay, yeah, the whatever is generating the sound, I don't know if by 1997 that was generated by a chip instead of something warbly that sounds like an analog tape loop. But the medical tricorder is obviously in much better shape. Considering the rushed conditions in which I've had to move a few times in my adult life, it's amazing that either of these still work as well as they do. But very sturdy, a lot of very good detail considering that it's decals. Just very nicely assembled, and as I said, I am pretty sure that the scale on these is just about perfect. The battery door is in the side on this model. And the speaker is underneath the belt loop holster holder. Not bad at all. These have always struck me as impressively accurate for mass market toys. They were nothing to sneeze at back in the day. These were more than good enough. Yeah, not perfect, but more than good enough. Much better than you would actually be expecting, again, from something from the mass market toy manufacturer. A lot of attention to detail was paid, and it's not like I'm sitting here 30 years later saying, I wish these were absolutely screen accurate, nothing less will do. No, these are fine for my price range, thank you very much. The battery door on the medical tricorder, a little bit tricky to put back on once you've put batteries in it. I do not tend to keep batteries in my battery-powered things that are on display because I don't want anything to leak in there. Still slightly tricky to get that battery door closed. On the regular tricorder, the battery door is a bit more obvious. And you really do need both thumbs for it, or at least I do. Now, underneath the batteries in the regular non-medical tricorder, there is a switch. I'm trying to remember the function of that. I believe that puts it in or takes it out of the demo mode that it was in the original packaging. And because there was a hole in the box of the original tricorder, and I believe the medical tricorder, when they shipped originally, and there was something next to the hole that was like, "Try me, I make sounds." If you're wondering where I keep these, they're on the equipment wall. Next to some communicators, both Playmates standard issue and some vintage Mego communicators. And of course lots of other stuff on the equipment wall. Phasers, sonic screwdrivers, communicators of all kinds. Yeah, basically, if you want to equip yourself for an away mission, Blake 7 teleport bracelet, lightsaber, just grab what you need off the equipment wall. You're good to go. So all of this, I'm not putting down the factory entertainment tricorder. I don't doubt that there's a market for it. However, while we are on the topic of $800 tricorders, and no, I am not kidding about that, we need to have a conversation at some point about why Star Trek merchandise has become so expensive. We're not really getting consumer-priced Star Trek stuff anymore. It used to be, and yes, this was back in the glory days of Star Trek The Next Generation topping the syndicated ratings. Stuff like this got made. An extensive action figure line got made. And we were all perfectly happy to have it. Because just as Star Trek itself kind of went through wilderness years, in the 70s, merchandise did too. The 90s and really the success of Star Trek The Next Generation, we had this nice little purple patch where decent merch, like these tricorders, started to happen, and they weren't prohibitively expensive. You flash forward now to 2024, and your tricorders cost $800. Your little ship models, which used to be from Eagle Moss, but, now they're master replicas, the price on those has gone up. Fanhome is continuing the ship model line that Eagle Moss used to produce, and their basic price point hovers around the $60 mark for the regular mid-sized ships, and then closer to $100 for the larger ships. Playmates briefly relaunched the action figure line, and then after two waves that consisted... The first wave consisted primarily of characters that we had gotten in the 90s. But they did new versions of Kirk and Spock and Picard and Data and Riker and Khan. The only new figures in that first wave were Michael Burnham and Saru from Discovery in Season 1 uniforms. And then the next and last wave that Playmates graced us with in this century consisted of not even the entire crew from Star Trek Prodigy. Who has the action figure license now? Well, X06 has these 1/6 scale figures, about a foot tall, with fabric uniforms, tons of accessories, interchangeable hands, and so on. That's great, but they're over $100 a figure. I find it ironic that this fictional franchise that so many of us have latched onto because it shows a more equitable future without scarcity and without economic bars to entry, without the capitalist hellscape we've all gotten so used to in the here and now. The merch is all expensive, limited edition stuff. There is nothing like this now. A tricorder now runs you $800. I've got a problem with that. And you know what? It's probably holding wider adoption of the franchise back. Not having that stuff. So, just getting that off my chest. I miss when there was Star Trek merch that was affordable by po folks like myself.